Hello, welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to see how to do a PGP encryption and decryption in a Mulesoft project. To start with, I'll be having let's create a Mule project and name it as PGP Encryption. Let's drag and drop a scheduler. This will make it easy. And now we need to add crypto. Basically, crypto would not appear here directly since I've already downloaded into my Mule application. Crypto is available. It needs to be downloaded. This model needs to be downloaded from Exchange. So come here, crypto CRY. You can see this module. Let me add it. Finish. Now crypto is here. Here, let's take PGP Encrypt. Okay. Before this, let's read the file uh, as an input source for PGP. So I have a file over here. It is called some general text with the name of best practices. So let me give this path. Slash. Okay. So in the configuration, I won't do any changes, all default configurations. So this would read this file. Now let's save it. Let's come to the PGP Encrypt. For PGP Encrypt, we need to uh, do a module configuration. Here, basically, we do require some of the informations like public key and private key. How do we generate the public key and private key? There is a software called as Cleopatra. This can be downloaded. When you give a search called as download Cleopatra, you will see GPG for Windows 3.1.6 downloads. You click this. Here you can download it for Windows. Once you install, it should look something similar to like this, depending on the version you have downloaded. Now let's click on the new key pair, and you can give I'm going to give my name. Okay, this is optional. Again, I'm going to give leave empty uh, email and protect the generated key with a passphrase. So let's create. You will you will receive a pop-up to enter the password. So let's write as mule 1234. You give value 1234. Okay. So let me click OK. It would take a couple of minutes, but this would create a. Okay. Now let's finish it. So now we can see uh, it's in the name of Nagraj KV, that is my name, and certified and valid format 2 and key ID. So let me right click and export the public key. Okay, so usually we can save it to some of your location. So I would do is like let me give public underscore today's date, that is 1609. Okay, save. Again, we can export the secret key as well. So again, I will give my date 1609, and at the moment it would ask for the password, that is mule1234. Successfully exported. We do require one more information, that is the fingerprint. So let's go to the details, and this is a fingerprint. Let's copy this. Let me take a notepad. Let's get rid of all the spaces. Okay, now we have the fingerprint, and now we have the public key and the private key. Let's go back to the Anypoint Studio. Now, the public key, let's navigate to the public key. I have saved everything in PGP keys, and today's date. This is the public key. Let me select the public key. This is where the public key. So let's take the private key as well. So let's add the key. This is just any of the key ID you might give. Let's give it as Mule key. Okay, fingerprint. Let's copy the fingerprint. Let's give the password. Okay, let's finish it. Now the configuration has been done. Now let's click OK. Okay, now apart from this, we also need to give the key ID. That is the key ID which we have mentioned, that is mule key. Okay, so let's come back to the message flow. Let's go here. Now you should see the errors are gone. So now this is what is required to encrypt. Now the encryption happens through the public key. But why did I even select for the private key and the mule ID over here? For encryption, there are two things which are required. That is the public key and the fingerprint. We don't need a private key and a passphrase. But since I'm going to have both encryption and decryption in the same flow, I have created that I have configured that one, which I don't want to configure again and again for the same process. So now let's save the file. File, right? Okay. So here, let's give the path. We'll take the same path over here, and in the right path, the connector, we'll select the same connector which were used for read. In the path, let's give text dot PGP. That means we are encrypting in the PGP, and this read file would write the information to the payload, and the payload is transformed, or it is been encrypted in PGP, and hence we are passing the payload back to the right. Okay, so this is about the encryption. Let's run this, and post to this we will read how to do the decryption of the same. So since I added a scheduler, and the frequency is 1000 milliseconds, I would make 15 minutes because I don't want to be executing every 15 milliseconds. The advantage of scheduler, I don't have to require a post request to start my application. So let me put a breakpoint over here. Debug. Now you can see here, if since the we are using PGP encryption, it would be uh, doing two activities. One is it would encrypt the content, and also it will compress the content. That is the advantage of PGP encryption. So now let's go. Now the application is deployed, and we already received the application is started. Now you can see the payload. This is text file which was written. Okay, so now let's go to the PGP encryption. Now you can see the payload, that is whatever we have read, has been transformed to PGP encryption. So now let's write the file activity. So now the file activity is completed. So let us stop and let us go to uh, the file. You can see it's written over here, and let me double click it. I'm just giving the same password. You can see here it has been encrypted. So now let us decrypt this one. Okay, so to decrypt, let's go back to the project. I'm going to let's add a logger, and here just a message. This should be okay. Let me create it as a separate. Let me delete this. Let me create a separate one as scheduler this time. And now let's read the file. So I'm going to copy. Let's read the file. Now next we need to decrypt. CRY crypto and PGP decrypt. Okay, and now let's write it back to the file just to make sure we have decrypted. Okay, so in the scheduler I'm going to make 0 seconds, and again I'm going to make this as 20 minutes just in case not to restart, and I'm going to change the scheduler to start after 20, start delay as 2000 something, so that it won't immediately start. I want to start only this one. Now we can see the read. So let's go to this the write, whichever has been written over here. Will the file which was encrypted, let's take that and give it as a source for reading over here. And the configuration, we can reuse the same file configuration, and let's save it. Let's come to PGP decrypt, and here we can save the PGP which were configured. That is, here we have given the information of the private key and as well as the password and the fingerprint. This is where we use or it is used for private key and the mule key. Okay, let's click OK. Now we are in the payload, and here again we'll give the okay, there are no errors. I've included a read activity. That's the reason I'm not going to give a file read over here. I'm just going to give the payload, and this is done. Now for write. Okay, so we have the payload, and we will configure it as a file config, and we're going to give the path here instead of what I will do is best practices underscore one dot text. That is the new text which we're adding, which is decrypted. Okay, now our application is ready to be executed. Let's put a breakpoint in this place. So here what we are basically doing is reading a file, and that payload is sent to the PGP decrypt, and in PGP decrypt we are going to decrypt the encrypted file which we previously encrypted over here, and we are writing it back over here. The application is still deploying. Once the application deploys, we should see in the Mule debugger. See, we can see the payload is null. So let's proceed with the debugging. We can see now this is the encrypted file. Okay, so now the decryption happens. Let's proceed. So we can see the data is decrypted over here. Now Let's write it back. And I'm going to stop the application. Let's go. You can see here, this was the file which it tried to read. Okay, and this is the file which was written post our encryption. You can see there is no difference in the source file which we used initially to this was the source file which we used for the encryption. This was the encrypted file, and this is the decrypted file. This brings end to our demo. Thank you. Please to subscribe and provide me your comments. Thank you.